Hi, I'm Rob Leonard. Here's a From the Pressbox Extra. Tim Leonard appeared as a call-in guest on the home stretch on May 16th to talk about the 2017 NBA Draft.
And right now we have a caller on the line. We've got Tim from New Jersey. What's up, Tim?
Actually, it's Tim from New York. I do From the Pressbox. I thought we were going to talk about the NBA Draft Lottery.
And we're coming back to that right now.
Okay.
What's your take on the NBA Draft Lottery?
Well, obviously the 76ers got fortunate because they were able to move up, and naturally the Knicks wound up moving down a spot because did anybody not see that one coming?
Naturally. Because karma, because they're the New York Knicks, they're the dumpster fire of the NBA.
Exactly, and I don't expect Phil Jackson to do anything well at this point. Like I said on Monday, the thing that would have made me happiest would have been if he would have said to James Dolan after the season, you know what, Jamie, this isn't working out. I think I'm just going to go.
But honestly,
but that's not going to happen.
Honestly, let me ask you a question. Do you think Phil Jackson, out of everything else, do you think Phil Jackson drafts well? Like the glaring issue.
He obviously got lucky with Porzingis.
Yeah, what about Willie Hernan-Gomez?
He was a good second-round pick. I'll give him that. But I want to know who's helping him with the draft.
Honestly,
right? Because Hernan-Gomez was just a guy you stash. That's why a lot of teams will take foreign players because they'll just leave them in Europe and allow them to develop. Now, I will say this. The only thing that I thought Isaiah Thomas did well was draft.
Right.
So I don't know if Isaiah is involved with the Knicks draft or not. He probably isn't. But that was the only thing Isaiah did well. But he traded away all the picks, so it really didn't matter.
Right, but honestly, if you really think about how the Knicks draft, it's probably Phil Jackson, Steve Mills is probably there too, maybe Allen Houston, and Hornacek. So I'm pretty sure all of them have an input. But now, as I had time to reminisce about what I just saw, they're in a good spot because you can go a couple of different ways in this draft. You could probably go the kid from France, Nikilta, I think his name is, De'Aaron Fox. You could go...
The Knicks should go with De'Aaron Fox, no question. But he's not going to be there, number 8.
What makes you say that? Who's going to pick before him? The Timberwolves, probably? Because it always happens?
Well, the Timberwolves has picked way too many guards in the last God knows how many drafts. They made a big mistake years ago when they picked Rubio and Flynn, the picks right before Steph Curry, who's playing right now in game 2. So that right there is a big mistake that Timberwolves made when drafting guards. They did make a great decision by drafting Zach LaVine, but he's out right now, and he's also more of a shooting guard. And
right.
I know they still have Ricky Rubio, but he's injured. He's not that good.
He's on the back burner.
They could take his contract, and they can kind of dump it. Chris Dunn, their first-round pick last year, who was drafted 5th overall, was a little old for an NBA rookie and hasn't really done much in the league. Now, I'm not saying forget about him, but you did bring up the Timberwolves, and I do think De'Aaron Fox is a better fit. Maybe they could potentially take Dunn and Rubio, package Dunn with Rubio to get rid of that contract, bring in potentially a late first-rounder, early second-rounder, or a young and up-and-coming player. That would be a great fit.
Now, guys, let me interrupt for a second. Dunn's not going anywhere. Dunn is the future in Minnesota. They've made that pretty clear.
Dunn is not the future in Minnesota.
They've made that point very clear. They'll trade Rubio, no doubt. In fact, I'd be surprised if Rubio's in Minnesota next year. But Dunn is unquestionably the future there.
The future right now there is Towns, LaVine, and Wiggins.
And Dunn. Because if you're going to package...
They made that very clear last season that Dunn was going to be the guy.
If you're going to package in a trade with Rubio, you throw in a guy like Shabazz Muhammad.
Not many. Shabazz Muhammad isn't as...
It's depth. On any other team, it's depth. Because you just named 3 players that are cornerstone players for the Timberwolves that were all, I believe they were all, except for LaVine. I think they were all first-round picks.
LaVine was a first-round pick.
Oh, okay. Then
LaVine was the 13th overall pick.
Okay, then there's 3 first-round picks. Towns, who there's no way that you should have missed out on because that's a talent you just can't pass up.
If they had missed out on... At the time, I must admit, when the draft came, originally I was like, I'm not so sure about Anthony Towns. By the end of his rookie... 3 games into his rookie season, I was already like, oh my God, this guy's insane.
And to me, you pulled off and if you're the Timberwolves, you pulled off the biggest heist by trading away Kevin Love to get Andrew Wiggins.
That was not the biggest heist.
I said to me. And besides, look at how Andrew Wiggins is coming out as opposed to Kevin Love. Granted, Kevin Love's an NBA champion, but he's not going to be there forever. Andrew Wiggins is a young player that could probably stay with that team for the next 10 years.
The Cavaliers, though, did essentially they did trade Wiggins, but they also got rid of Anthony Bennett for Kevin Love. So when you
and that was a trade that helped both teams.
Yes, it helped both teams, and it was bad for both teams.
Because Wiggins in Cleveland was going to overlap with LeBron too much, and Love gave them an outside perimeter presence and also obviously a big rebounder, which is what they needed. So I mean, I don't see how you can criticize that trade from either side because it actually helped both teams.
You can. It was a very neutral trade.
You know, that's what a trade is supposed to be. Ideally, a trade helps both teams. You don't necessarily have a winner and a loser. It's all right. We have this piece and you have that piece, and our piece will help you and your piece will help us, and we'll go on our merry way, and that'll be that. You know, guys, I'm looking at one mock draft that I tend to like, and it's got New York picking Malik Monk from Kentucky at number 8.
Really?
I like that.
It's an interesting pick.
The kid from France that you mentioned, they have him going number 10 to Sacramento.
Okay.
You know, I mean, the Kings are in decent shape right now because they have the picks at number 5 and number 10, and this is it's going to be a pretty deep draft. I got to be honest, I'm not crazy about the Knicks taking a shooting guard if there's a point guard available because they need a point guard.
But
desperately.
what if they bring Derrick Rose back?
No. Oh my God, no.
That would be horrible for them.
Okay, I'm not saying they should do it. What if they bring him back on a 1-year deal?
I highly doubt that Derrick Rose would take a 1-year deal. I think that any team that pays Derrick Rose the maximum is being run by somebody who should be fired.
That's fair to say.
That being said, you know, I don't think he's going to get a max deal, but I would be very surprised if he doesn't get something similar to the deal that maybe like Dwight Howard got. Somewhere in the neighborhood of either 3 years for around 70 or maybe 4 years for 80, somewhere in that range. Somebody's going to say we desperately need a point guard, and they'll look at Derrick Rose from 5 years ago and say that they're hoping that he's going to regain that form. But let's face it, we saw Derrick Rose healthy this season.
Yes, we did.
There were no injury excuses. There were no, well, he's coming back from surgery, anything like that. This is the player that Derrick Rose is now, and he's just okay.
Do you think that there were at times where he was explosive?
Those times were very few and far between.
You didn't see the old Derrick Rose much.
No, of course not. Because you're not going to see that.
Exactly. He still has the talent there. He's just afraid to use some of it.
I don't think it's afraid. I think that the injuries, and I mean, let's face it. I mean, he's not an old player, but there's a lot of mileage on his legs. So, you know, legs and especially knees don't get younger as NBA players go on. That's like I said, that's the player Derrick Rose is. He might score 17, 18 points a game, but he's also going to average about maybe 4.5 assists, and that's what you're going to get. You're not going to get the guy that averaged 8 assists and can draw defenses because he's so explosive and can get to the rim. I mean, Derrick Rose used to be explosive like John Wall's explosive. All right?
Actually, we used to say Derrick Rose was Derrick Rose explosive. Like that was the standard.
But John Wall and what he was doing against the Celtics in this last week, I think a lot of people who had no clue how good John Wall is because you never see the Wizards on national television, I think a lot of people all of a sudden say, wow, this guy's a good player. Well, yeah, he's been a good player for a lot of years. It's just that finally Washington was in a situation where they were in the playoffs and they got some national exposure, and people got to see just how incredibly good this guy is.
Both point guards were groomed by John Calipari in college.
Well, I don't necessarily want to say they were groomed. I mean, you know, Calipari gets great players because of Kentucky's situation. I mean, if somebody plays for one season, can you say they were groomed? I mean, it's just like
Rose played for him back in Memphis, so give Calipari credit at least in drawing a player like Rose to University of Memphis.
I mean, I give Cal credit for recruiting, but it makes me wonder, especially since he's done it in 2 different places, how he's doing it. That's my question.
There's and you're not the only person that thinks that. Yeah. A lot of people are, because he's had 2 Final Four vacated in UMass and Memphis, and a lot of people are saying that there's got to be something going on here, and people are calling for the NCAA to investigate Kentucky because people are asking for them to take away a Kentucky one. They think something's going on here, that every single year he's having a top 3, usually top 2 recruiting class.
Well, I'm certainly not going to defend Calipari, but if people are going to say that, then they have to say the same thing about Duke. Because Krzyzewski's getting the same kind of classes nowadays. He's getting the same kind of one-and-done situations with players.
Not as much as Kentucky, though.
Also, he attracts a different style player.
Yeah, that's true.
But, you can say that, but if a guy is going to be one and done, then any accusations that you make about Calipari in Kentucky, you can make about Krzyzewski and Duke. How much do these guys actually go to class? Do they go to class? All of that stuff. It's all speculation, and obviously Calipari has a history. But if you look at the situation, tell me what's different.
To me, what's different is the fact that I've always viewed, and the media has always viewed, Mike Krzyzewski as more of an upstanding citizen. You don't generally see his players plastered in the paper and the wrong side of things. He's only kicked one player ever off his team, Rashid Suleiman, a few years ago. That was the first player he'd ever done. He'd always kept things in-house, and it was never... Maybe there were things that we didn't know about that were horrible or bad actions, but it was always a very tight-knit program. Everyone always came in, did what they were told, did what they wanted to do, and if they left after 1 year, great. But he never went out and publicly said, "I'm going for one and done." John Calipari did that. Mike Krzyzewski, as you could see, Grayson Allen has come back for his senior year right now. People came in and said, okay, he's the 4th player in recruiting class that had Justice Winslow,
Jaleel Okafor,
and Tyus Jones, a program that in their rookie year, all 4 of them, they did win a national title. And everyone said, okay, the 3 of them are going to leave, maybe even Grayson Allen. Grayson Allen comes back for his sophomore year, comes back for his junior year. He's come back for his senior year. And this is a guy that was expected to leave after 1 year. So it's not like Krzyzewski is just bringing in one-and-dones. You saw with Amal Jefferson. He just played his 5th year.
The majority of his recruits these days are one and done. The only reason Grayson Allen hasn't come out is because he wouldn't be a first-round pick. And that's part of it. You can look at a guy like Melo Trimble from Maryland, who I'm a big Maryland guy. He could have left after his freshman year, and arguably he should have, because his sophomore and junior years haven't been as good as his freshman year.
His stock was soaring then.
Exactly.
With Jake Layman by his side.
He's gotten injured both of the last 2 seasons. But you look at guys. Look at Harry Giles, for example. He was. He's a guy. He's a one and done guy, and he didn't even do much this season.
He should be staying in college. He does not have the credentials to go first overall, to go in the first round this year. He coming out of high school, everyone was like, "Oh, it's great. The kid's great," even though he had torn 2 ACLs. Comes to Duke and bam, injured again. Any team picking him should be wary of horrible, horrible knees, and he's 20 years old. Not even.
Exactly.
It's essentially Greg Oden with with the situation with Greg Oden with a little more knowledge of it. And Greg Oden didn't have as many documented injuries coming into the draft, and people were comparing them, potential-wise. And here you have Harry Giles, 3 torn ACLs in 3 consecutive years. And this is a big man who is going to get smacked, and knees are going to get hit going and crashing those boards. If I am a team, am I selecting him with my first-round pick? Most definitely not. If I'm as a Brooklyn Nets fan, if we have, say, the 60th pick in the draft and Harry Giles is there, do I say pick him? Most definitely. But I'm not picking him with my first-round selection. That's someone I'm supposed to build the franchise with, a cornerstone. Second round is where you find, hidden gems, as people call them, like Isaiah Thomas and Goran Dragic and DeAndre Jordan, Chandler Parsons.
Gordon Hayward.
Gordon Hayward was a lottery pick.
Oh, he was? Well.
Yeah, he was a first-round guy.
He was a lottery pick.
Just to put a bow on this, like I said, with this mock draft site that I'm looking at right now, 4 Duke players they have going in the first round. 3 of them are freshmen. The other one being Luke Kennard, who's a sophomore.
I like him too. He reminds me of Chris Mullen. I don't know why. I like his I like his lefty beyond the arc shot. I think it's, to me, because I watched Duke a lot this year. I've watched Duke a lot in the past couple of years. I just think that he's very reliable behind the arc, and he's a good post-up guy.
Yeah, he's a good stroke and good basketball IQ.
He's got me. I think of Luke Kennard more of an athletic Kyle Korver.
Okay.
A guy
I
who
can see
is
that. Not as good a shooter as Corver, but
not as good as shooter as Corver, more athletic and better
for sure.
basketball IQ.
For sure, I could go with that.
He's definitely